Hello everybody, this is DearMamaSal and it's Friday at 11:13. It's 7 degrees Canadian, which is a balmy 45 in America, and I am on my way, which is pretty good because I had wanted to be on my way by 11 o'clock and I'm only 15 minutes late. I think that the journey is going to take me probably about an hour, maybe a bit more. I've left myself plenty of time to wait for the ferry. I am one of those people, I would prefer to wait than end up being rushed, and I wonder how many of you relate to that one. I know that some of you, I'm sure, are what I call last minute people, and you survive very well like that. I think because I had a job that really only ever paid me if I got there. When you're a professional speaker, then and well, number one, people have had you booked for probably over a year, and they actually expect you to be there. And they've advertised you and promoted you and done all sorts of things and spent a great deal of money doing that. And so you can imagine that if you suddenly don't pitch, your reputation is pretty well shot. Pretty well shot. Because I've always heard and believed. Okay, it's going to be idiot day on the road today. And maybe the idiot's me. Anyway, I've always sort of been of the opinion that I would rather be waiting than be late, as you know. But when you actually do that for a living, there's an old adage about customer service that says a happy person will probably tell 3 people, that they got great service or that was a great whatever. An unhappy one will tell 10. And that's where making a mistake like that can come back and haunt you big time. On the other side of it, my experience was, if you have one person that really believes in you and that one person has influence, then you can have 9 other people in the room that have different views, but the truth is that one view will overtake the 9. And I had it happen once, and I remember the person concerned actually phoning and telling me, and what he said was they were busy discussing speakers. And there were all these suggested speakers that the committee, whatever the committee was, were just busy discussing. You have to understand this was the CEO. And he saw all the recommendations on the conference room or boardroom table, whatever it was. And they were all talking around in circles, as is the way. And the funny thing was that he let them all talk, and then when he got bored enough, which apparently didn't take very long, he just said, "Ladies and gentlemen, you can discuss this for as long as you like, but if you want a speaker where everybody will be laughing, everybody will be thinking, and it will be memorable to them, because they won't know what's hit them. And sometimes they won't realize it until they've left the room. Then you pick this lady." And I always remember him phoning and telling me, he said, "Expect a call." I said, "Well, were you there for the vote?" And he said, "I don't have to be. I'm the CEO. You think they're going to mess with me?" I thought it was really cute. So it was really a discussion about I would rather be early than be late. And there are lots of you I know that really do fly by the seat of your pants and probably keep telling yourself, next time I'm really not going to do this to myself, and you keep doing it, and I understand that. So I thought I'd tell you how I work out my timetable, and this is what I used to do when I was speaking, and this is what I do whenever it's important to me. For example, catching a ferry that goes only once every couple of hours, it's important not to miss the ferry. Now, I know I could have reserved space on the ferry, and that would have cost me probably an extra $15 that I don't want to spend. So the alternative to that is to be there early enough so that you don't have to worry about that. I'm also factoring in the fact that I'm going at lunchtime, which is not likely to be a busy time. So I'm quite happy to just take my time and enjoy it. So this is how I used to do it. I'd go at what time, for example, I'll give you the real example of the ferry. What time does the ferry leave? Well, the ferry leaves at 1:30. How much ahead of time do I want to be at the ferry? An hour. I want to be at the ferry at 12:30. Now, I don't have to be, but that's what I would like to do. And here comes the rain, everybody. I had hoped for a really pleasant ferry ride over so I could take beautiful pictures for you of the trip, because it is a magnificent trip. And now we have torrential rain. Of course. It is what it is, right? Anyway, so then I work out, okay, it's going to take me an hour to get to the ferry. So now we're backtracking, right? 1:30 ferry. I want to be there by 12:30. It's an hour-long drive, so that's 11:30 that I need to be leaving home at the latest. So then I said, okay, fine, I want to leave home by 11, knowing that I could be a little bit late, and that's my half-hour window that I've got in there. So here I am, I'm on my way, I'm hopefully going to be not hitting too many delays, but I've got a window of at least 15 minutes in there for additional delays. So, pretty good margin. And if you think about it, I've got lots of other time factors in there. If necessary, I can probably be 3/4 an hour late and still get on it. So that's the way that I do it. Now, when I get there, am I going to be bored? I don't get bored very easily. I know a lot of people do. A lot of people can't sit and wait. My biggest problem is, can I pee? But other than that, quite honestly, I'm quite happy to sit and wait. Doesn't worry me. I have some lunch with me. I have some pop with me. Soda, for those of you who are south of the border. Not that I particularly want to drink soda, but I have some because it's a treat weekend. I have a warm car. I have my big coat with me so I can be warm if I want to be. So generally I'm sort of pretty well prepared. I was talking to Laurie just before I left. She was doing some research for me on forgiveness, because this is a topic that obviously we're going to do a lot more on. And she was actually talking about, she was surprised how many people had started talking about the fact that they were adopted, and the fact that there were two different schools of thought on this, that some were adopted well, and I'll get into that, and then some were adopted not so well. And that's really bad English, and I can hear my mother screaming at me, which she still does. So those that were adopted well on two different levels. Number one is well as in they ended up in a nice family that was loving and caring and all the rest of it. And then we had those that did not end up in a nice family. But there was an even a bigger factor from what I could see from people when they were writing, that not only did some end up in a good family, but that good family did a really great job of conditioning them to understand that it was not that they were not loved. They did a really good job of saying the reason you were adopted was because your mother loved you enough to want a better life for you. And that was the conditioning, not one of, she didn't want you. And so what we noticed in the answers was that the way people responded to this was very different depending on the input they got. So we'll definitely be having a look at some more of those things in case any of you ever adopt a child in your life. The other thing that Laurie brought up this morning, which I thought was fascinating, was, wasn't it interesting how few people mentioned the fathers? Everybody talked about the mothers, be that the birth mothers or the birth or the adoptive mothers. Very few people talked about fathers. And I said, I hadn't noticed that, but now that you mention it, you're right. I think one person did. So it was a really important factor, because why? Why had people not talked about their fathers? And I think that only they know, those of you who responded to this. But my sense is, and I just, going to do that, my sense is that either the fathers were missing and weren't part of this equation at all, or they were deadbeat fathers who really didn't care about what happened to the children anyway. Hi everybody, this is DearMamaSal. I'm back again, and we're just getting closer to the ferry, so I thought what I would do is just give you a typical Vancouver day. And I'm just going to move the camera here because I don't know if you can see, but that's an unbelievable view there. And you're going to see a lot more really incredible views. We're coming into what is called Horseshoe Bay. And I think I just missed the exit for the ferry. That's quite funny. I'm glad I'm early. Okay, so this is well, hello everybody, and here I am at the ferry terminal. Let's give you a little shot here. It's a typical Vancouver day. It's overcast, and we are in an area called Horseshoe Bay. For those of you who want to do this journey with me, I'll sort of give you the landmarks to watch out for. So we've gone across to West Vancouver, and then we're now at Horseshoe Bay. And all I've got to do now is find my car again. That'll be challenging. I think I found it. So we're going to take a short ride across from, we're going to ride from Horseshoe Bay across to Gibsons, Gibsons, and then we're going to drive up what they call the Sunshine Coast. And there's my car. Life is good. Well, now that I'm safely here at the ferry, I'm going to add in a clip here, which is going to amuse a lot of you, because it was my Dufus moment, and you knew I couldn't possibly do a trip like this without there being a Dufus moment. And what happened was, I really did want to reposition the camera to show you something as I came driving down into Horseshoe Bay, because it's so beautiful, even on an overcast day like today. And of course, as I was doing that, and you're all going to roll your eyes and say, you're meant to concentrate on the road, and guess what? I missed the exit to the ferry. They've changed it. And I wasn't expecting it to be where it was. It's been a long time since I've been on this ferry, so absolutely I am 100% to blame, and it was a major doofus because it cost me an extra 15 minutes. Because I had to drive. If any of you actually watch this on a map, if you see Horseshoe Bay, I was on my way to Squamish. Then I had to wait for somewhere where I could turn around and then come all the way back to the ferry, which I watched very carefully. But I knew that some of you would be expecting this of me. And I thought I would just tell you quickly one story that I have. I know you like to hear my stories about my travels. So my memory of ferries, particularly here at Horseshoe Bay, was the first time I had an RV. I bought myself an absolute piece of junk I called it Torty the Tin Tent, because that was really about all that she was. She was a really beat up motorhome. And anyway, long story short, the very first trip I did, I needed to take her on the ferry. And I was saying to people, do you think I should tell the people at the toll booth, because you have to pay to get in on the ferry, do you think I should tell them that I don't know what I'm doing? And then I realized, no, men would never do that. Men would never stop at the toll booth and say, do you think somebody could help me onto the ferry because I don't know what I'm doing. And I tried to think, what would men do? Men would just rock up there and just drive the damn thing on. So I did. And it was so funny because I drove it on with all the truckers and everything else. And when I actually got onto the ferry, and I'm actually going to try and videotape going onto the ferry because it can be quite hairy. But when I got onto the ferry, one of the truckers got out and he said, gee, lady, I'm so impressed with you. And I said, oh, really? Why? And he said, I've never seen a lady, take a big unit like that and just drive it onto the ferry like that. And I said, well, actually, it's my first time. He said, it's your first time what? I said, driving the RV. And he said, are you telling me that your very first trip on an RV, you take it onto the ferry? I said, yeah. He said, I am doubly impressed. So obviously I felt a whole lot better. All right, I'll be back to you when we actually load. So bye-bye for now. I don't want to use up all the battery.